Hey man, what it do, man? What it do, man? This your boy K Smooth, man, coming to you with another motherfucking video, man. Hey man, Boxing Talk 100. And let's talk about it, man. Breaking motherfucking news, man. And I know it's gonna be surprising to some, but Gervonta Tank Davis versus motherfucking Jake Paul. Exhibition matchup. Let's talk about it, man. What is Jake Paul? What, like 6'1", 6'2"? 6'1", 6'2", Gervonta Davis like 5'8", 5'9". I mean, let's talk about it, man. We definitely can, it's like a mismatch, definitely for, Jake Paul, but this fight, man, a lot of people are gonna be mad about it, but I'm just kind of still, puzzled, what I'm saying, of the, fight being agreed upon, what I'm saying. I'm like, man, what's really going on? Because there's a lot of stuff that we can break down when we talk about Gervonta Davis, what I'm saying, and giving our take about, Jake Paul, making his way up to becoming an elite, boxer, of, association. Has earned his way, in certain spots that, some guys can't, get to a certain level to be able to fight for these mega fights or big exhibition fights, what I'm saying, just for the money. But Gervonta Tank Davis, man, it's like, I'm glad, it's a lot of stuff that Gervonta Tank was, is going through. And you got to understand, when we talk about a lot of fighters, because I could see Tank could be able to compete at, 135 to 140 easily. Such as names, what I'm saying, 135, which makes sense to me. Being able to be, an undisputed champion, being able to unify, capturing belts. That's what makes sense. At 135, Tank has a belt. Shakur has a belt. 2 belts would be, vacated at 135. Still giving or take to be able to see who could become a unified, undisputed champion at 135. Who do you have at 135, Tank, that makes sense for you to be able to fight? Tank versus Schofield, Tank versus Shakur Stevenson, it could have been a Lomachenko, there's a lot of fighters that's going to be able to compete at, 135. You still got, give or take, you still got Keyshawn, playing around with 135 to 140. He had his opportunity and lost the belt. Now he don't have no choice but to move up at 135, or he has 140, or he got to be able to take up on, the Schofields, or fight, Shakur Stevenson, or fight Gervonta Tank Davis, what I'm saying, at 135, which would have made sense for Gervonta Tank Davis, or, giving or take, Gervonta Tank Davis at 140. You got Teofimo that got a belt, Gary Antoine Russell. You got Julio. You still got Matias. You still got some great champions, at 140 that can compete. That's competing for world titles. That's trying to capture being unified, undisputed champion. Trying to capture to be unified, undisputed champion. So my question to Tank is, why are you not trying to compete to be able to fight these guys? That's our champions. But you go and fight a YouTuber. Now, this where it gets interesting. Now, I understand the business, and Tank has that name, Gervonta Tank Davis, and how exhibitions are, being, done and, being out there. Tank is going to get that bag. It's not because, of, just a exhibition match. It's because of Tank's name and who he is and how favored he is, and what I'm saying, being in a position to be able to do whatever the fuck he want to be able to do. Gervonta Tank Davis. Jake Paul, has earned his way. We seen him fight Julio Cesar Chavez, beat Julio Cesar, whatever his name is, Julio Cesar Chavez, and then he fought, old, what I'm saying, grudge, Iron Mike Tyson, what I'm saying. But I understand Jake in the business, you needed to be able to have a name like, Iron Mike Tyson to be able to go get those names who, they don't think who you could beat, so, Jake Paul, I can't be too mad at Jake Paul for making his way and, you know, trying to become a superstar in boxing. They're giving him a chance to be able to sneak it and fucking, you know, enter the door, you know what I'm saying? Putting his feet in the door. They allowing Jake Paul to be able to do that, you know what I'm saying, in real boxing association. You know, so, you know, I'm not mad. I think with Jake Paul, you know, trying to take, you know, a Gervonta Davis fight, a real, actual, you know what I'm saying, boxing match, you got to ask Jake Paul, is this what you really want for Gervonta Tank Davis? Is this really what you really want, that type of smoke? Because in the exhibition match, it ain't going to be as how it is on championship, on the championship stage. You know, neither one of y'all got a belt. It's just fucking really like a retarded ass fight, if you ask me. The only reason why I say it's good because, you know, they both gonna be getting paid, whether it's $40 to $50 million because of the name, you know, Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul. But, you know, a lot of people are gonna feel like, you know, this fight is just, you know, rigged and, you know, it's made up, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, at the same time, you know, we got to be able to understand, you know, it's a business, it's a hurt sport. And giving our take, you know, when you under the lights, you know what I'm saying, you know, anything can happen. You know, but when we got to be able to talk about the fight and, you know, express our opinions on it, that's only right. I feel like Gervonta Tank Davis, you know, I think he's gonna land. He's so gifted and talented, and with his boxing skills and the way how he fight, I think he's gonna make it easy a night, you know what I'm saying, going in there to handle business, beating Jake Paul. It'd be a total shocker, you know what I'm saying? Gervonta and the reputation that he brings to boxing, if you lose against Jake Paul, man, your stock gonna go down, man. Gervonta Tank Davis, I'm gonna tell you that your stock gonna go down. Yes, you gonna get paid and you gonna have a whole lot of money, but it ain't gonna be the same. There's gonna be a blueprint on how to beat Gervonta Tank Davis if you let Jake Paul beat you. That's gonna make Jake Paul and the numbers go up, giving him the fight. You know what I'm saying? He already saying that, you know, with this David and Goliath shit, starting with Gervonta Tank Davis and then going to go fight, you know, Anthony Joshua. That's the plan for Jake Paul. So I'm not mad at Jake Paul for being able to step in there and being able to fight. It just don't make sense with, you know, Gervonta Tank Davis, man. And, you know, that's gotta be, you know, I don't know, man. I just can't get around it, man. You know, Jake Paul is good, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that he one of them fighters that don't give a fuck. You already seen he fought Tyson, Julio, and all these other fighters, you know, UFC fighters, just to be able to try to get on the stage of being the best in the world. You can't really be mad at that. But the matchup, you know what I'm saying, with Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis don't make sense. The weights is off, you know what I'm saying? The height is off. You know what I'm saying? What Jake Paul he really trying to hurt Gervonta Tank Davis. He trying to hurt his ass. But Gervonta is so good and he's so skillful that he could also hurt Jake Paul. Let that sink in, you know what I'm saying, for a couple of y'all that don't understand. Gervonta, he's so gifted and blessed to be able to have such great hands and, you know, both left and right. Being able to box, you know what I'm saying, being able to move his head, being able to be a true boxer, and don't have no losses yet. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be big coming into this exhibition matchup against Jake Paul, a guy who feels like they just the best boxer in the world. And got to be able to find out, you know what I'm saying, otherwise, you know what I'm saying, how this shit is really ran in boxing, in the boxing world. I think when it's all said and done, you know, Tank, this could be a statement, you know, if Tank beats, you know, Jake Paul, you know, this could get Jake Paul out of, you know, boxing for good. That's what, you know, a lot of fans are hoping, especially, you know, the true boxing fans. If Gervonta Tank Davis go in there and beat Jake Paul, there should be nothing to talk about with, you know, Jake Paul. Let him go to wrestling to go join his brother, you know, Logan, or, you know, find something else. Go on and, you know, fight into the UFC. You crazy enough to, you know, to get into them type of, you know, wars, you know, Jake Paul. So we'll see how long it lasts, you know what I'm saying, for, you know, Jake Paul to be able to see if he can get through, you know, Gervonta Tank Davis. It's definitely uneven. However you put it and twist it within this exhibition match, man, it's definitely uneven, and it really don't make sense. Yes, it makes sense for both of them to get paid, but in true reality of, you know, putting them, you know, it don't make sense. So my money definitely is on, you know, Gervonta Tank Davis. Could Jake Paul go on there and hurt Gervonta? It's definitely a big possibility, because now Jake Paul, I'm not just going to put him down. He does have great skills. And, you know, from coming up and, you know, working on his craft and becoming a boxer and trying to become an elite boxer, he's been doing this thing, man, training and trying to be able to become a true professional. You know what I'm saying? You can't be mad at that, you know. That's better than most people that's actually trying to make a living and, you know, being a professional and, you know, having a career in boxing, you know, Jake Paul. It's a great startup, man. It's a great startup, but this is just my only, you know, question for Jake. Do you really want that smoke with Gervonta Tank Davis? A motherfucker that's going to buck you, hit you hard. A motherfucker that got great accuracy. Tank ain't just going in there and swinging and shit. He got aim for good accuracy to be able to hurt you. You know, landing, you know, as well as Jake Paul, too. You know, you just never know what could happen with Jake Paul. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I'm not going to say that he can't throw a punch, you know, left and right, and got great blocking skills and combinations of like that. He definitely got all that, you know what I'm saying? And could definitely, you know, make this fight be, you know, very interesting. You know, that's what I would say about, you know, this fight with Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. But I'll say this, man. If Gervonta let Jake Paul win this fight, man, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be a downfall for Gervonta Tank Davis. You know what I'm saying? You know, Gervonta Tank Davis got to go in there and make easy work of Jake Paul to be able to stop all this conversation about, you know, what Jake Paul can do and the fighters who he can fight. You know what I'm saying? We got to put this shit to the end. Either you let Jake Paul go in there and beat your ass, or be like a draw. I really don't want to see no draw in exhibition, man. I want to see somebody get knocked out. And this is the time to be able to see somebody get knocked out with Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul. Definitely, most definitely. So, you know, Gervonta, he tired of Jake Paul, and then I could see it, you know what I'm saying? You got to be able to get this motherfucker out of here, man. You know, or he's just going to make it a confusion for everybody in the sport of boxing, like how he's been making it. You know, truthfully. You know, so if you let Jake Paul go in there and be successful at, you know, knocking out Gervonta Tank Davis, then we got a brand new superstar, you know, in the making, you know, with Jake Paul, you know, being able to run the sport in boxing. If Gervonta Tank Davis, if your fucking ass lose, man, you can for sure, and I bet my money on it, that everybody that's competing at 135 to 140, whoever's at 135 eventually move at 140. If who's ever competing at, you know, championships and trying to capture world titles, Gervonta, you're going to have it hard. Whether it's Shakur, whether it's Schofield, whether, you know, Abdullah Mason, whether whoever at 140, you know what I'm saying, Theo, Gary Antoine Russell, Richardson Hitchens, motherfucking Matias, all these fighters, you know what I'm saying? Gervonta Tank Davis, that's going to be your downfall for not being able to take upon these fights. Knowing that you could have fought these fighters, real boxers, instead of Jake Paul. Boxing Talk 100. But yeah, man, comment at the bottom and let me know who y'all think gon', you know, win the fight. It's not about, you know, what I think, man. It's about the fans and who's going to be tuning in, watching this, you know, fight, you know, exhibition, you know, bout. You know, it's going to be interesting. You know, it's going to be one for the ages. And, you know, boxing, we got to be able to see it now, man. We got to be able to see it. It's too, boxing is too, it's too rigged. It's kind of rigged up right now. The champions don't want to fight the champions. It's like we stalling in the sport of boxing. And it don't make no sense. We are stalling in the sport of boxing. Luckily, we get these, you know, free Netflix, you know, fights, you know, Canelo and motherfucking, you know, Terrence Bud Crawford. That's going to be a good one, you know what I'm saying? I look forward to that, you know what I'm saying, live on, Netflix for, the whole world to be able to see. That's going to be a great matchup, man. And I said it was like a 50-50 fight, man. That's going to be a terrible. That's going to be, and I don't mean terrible in a way, I mean like terrible good. Like both going to be able to land and, both going to be able to have great, accuracy. You know what I'm saying? Both going to be able to have great counter punching. It's all going to be about whoever, makes a mistake. And both make mistakes. As great champions, both, Canelo, you can make him, following mistakes. Bud is good at making, the opponent make mistakes and being able to counter punch and being able to land efficiently, you know what I'm saying? Paying the price. Bud is good. So this is going to be a great, terrible chess match. I may call this, you know what I'm saying, Bud versus, Canelo. It's going to be a great, terrible, you know what I'm saying, chess match. And what I mean by that, man, they both going to come in like with the same style, you know what I'm saying, uppercuts, using the jabs, being able to slip punches, being able to use body punches. Well, I got Canelo edging, Bud on body punches, Canelo, when it comes to Canelo, he a great body snatcher when it comes to left and right. Uppercuts to the body, you know what I'm saying? And being able to hurt you and being able to land. You know what I'm saying? Being able to slowly but surely break down the body. That's the only thing Bud has to be able to worry about, that I give Canelo that advantage of. Now, when it comes to boxing in the middle and standing in the ring, Bud might have a chance. Cordial, he's good in both hands. When you talk about orthodox and being southpaw, motherfucking Bud is that nigga, you know what I'm saying? And when you talking about great counter punching, there's not too many, fighters that got great counter punching abilities. If you swing and you fuck up with a punch, then boom, your punch is gonna be able to land efficiently and being able to land perfect on the opponent, being able to hurt, being able to land, and being able to score points when it matters, coming to the fight against Canelo. Now, Bud, if you stay in the middle and you boxing and you able to use your IQ, being able to just box and not take so much punishment against Canelo, you might have a good chance of beating Canelo. But if you be hard-headed and you stay in the middle to where Canelo, that's where he's good at. I'm trying to tell you. If you stay in the middle, not only that, Canelo's a great boxer, so you might even have trouble, standing in the middle, of Canelo. If you let Canelo be able to take control of using the jab and coming forward and using body punches and these motherfucking, officials who's judging the fight being able to see that, they're going to be able to see who pressures the fight, more. They're going to be able to see who pressures the fight more. Who's going to be bagging up on their feet more. Who's not going to be willing to take body punches, you know what I'm saying, and all that shit above. So when you talk about Canelo is damn near A+, a fucking boxer. When it comes to skills and, boxing, using the jab and moving your head and, playing defense and, boxing in the middle, left, right to the body, left, right to the head, uppercuts. Canelo got all the traits to be able to, still, hold those belts and still being undefeated, beating, Terrence Bud Crawford. Boxing Talk 100, man. That's what it comes down to. Now, Bud, Bud, the only thing I can say good about Bud, you go in there undefeated, you know what I'm saying? That's going to be, all of, of what you need, of having that confidence coming into the fight against Canelo. Just being undefeated and knowing that, you know what I'm saying? That's the mindset you got to go in there, against Canelo. If you go on there and you feel like you already lost, you're going to lose. You got to go on there with a mentality, staying on the win, in the mind. It's a mindset, you know what I'm saying? A lot of them boxers go on there under the light and they don't perform and get beat. Now, Canelo's last fight against William Skull, let's talk about it. A lot of people felt like William Skull won that fight and actually boxed Canelo. And when you want to talk about, boxing, but was it really enough? You see, you got to be able to understand. In the sport of boxing, Canelo is he's so fucking popular of the sport. You know what I'm saying? There's no way in the hell they're gonna have Skull to be able to beat Canelo unless he knocks out Canelo. Boxing Talk 100, that's just what it is. You got to go on there to be able to knock out Canelo. If you can't do that, boxing association and the judges and all that, they're not going to see a fight, being so close. Most likely, they're going to give it to Canelo. Because Canelo is that boxer. He going to make sure, going into these fights, he's not going to try to make it close. And he's going to make sure he gets, the job done. Canelo Alvarez. Not trying to make that shit close at all. So, yeah, Bud, man, I'll say this, man. I'm not going to be biased. Like I said, it's a 50-50 fight for me. I really can't determine, like who I got to pick, man. But I like both fighters, like I said, Bud is undefeated. Canelo is, 62 wins with, 2 losses? That's superb, man. And you got, almost 45 knockouts within them 60-something wins. That's phenomenal. Now, Bud, you got 45 plus wins, something like that. 42, 43 wins with 0 losses. That's phenomenal as well. But we got to be able to match up and see what resume makes sense. And looking at the resume, Canelo definitely has, the better resume, and has beaten more, world champions than, Terrence Bud Crawford, which I don't take nothing from Terrence Bud Crawford. He's been a 2-divisional, world champion, trying to be a 3-divisional world champion. Same as Canelo. Canelo trying to, still be, undefeated. You know what I'm saying? Coming into this fight, being able to put his titles on the line. So it's about the belts. You know what I'm saying? If Bud can take the belts from Canelo, or Canelo, still, holds the belts. That's what it comes down to. In the new or in still, Canelo Alvarez. So, Bud, you gotta show me something. You know what I'm saying? Boxing fans. When you watching this fight, you gotta ask yourself, what can Bud really do to Canelo? You gotta continually, going to the head. Just like Bivol did in Mayweather, you know what I'm saying? Tagging that head, That's one of Mayweather's downfall, If you allow to bring forth and up and, pressure to Canelo, then sometimes Canelo can't handle that pressure. But Canelo got the same amount of pressure that he brings forth, against his opponents that they can't handle. And eventually he breaks their ass down. But are you going to have that same mentality coming in, fighting, Canelo, coming fight night? Because if you can't match that same energy that Canelo's got, you're going to get your ass broken down, Bud, for the first time in your career. And I'm just going to keep it real. No, I'm not going to be biased about it, nothing. Boxing fans, Canelo fans to, motherfucking Crawford fans, we not going to be biased. If Bud don't have that same type of energy and can't match what Canelo brings to the board, to the table, Bud going to get spanked coming fight night. I'm trying to tell y'all how this shit going to go. Bud going to get his ass towed up. Bud going to get his ass towed up because I don't watch boxing so long and I don't study it, even though we can kind of go back on what, on Canelo with the, PEDs and, that cow meat or whatever they say, what type of meat he was eating on. That was then, this is now, you know what I'm saying? You better hope that you don't have any type of shit in your system, that could, hold you back or, none of that shit. But it's different. Canelo, man, he don't fucking, throughout his whole career, all he has did is, elevate to get better and better and better, becoming champions, beating champions, becoming, the best fighter, that you can possibly think of. You know what I'm saying? And it's been a long time since we've seen a good fighter like Canelo, and especially, of the Latino people, his Mexican people that's behind him. They got a great champion. I can't deny it. I ain't gonna lie about it. You know what I'm saying? Canelo, he's a great champion, man. And If it's anybody, you know, if it's anybody that's on top, it will be Canelo. And if it's anybody that could try to beat Canelo, it'd be Terrence Bud Crawford. So boxing fans, there you have it, you know what I'm saying? Coming at the bottom and let me know, you know what I'm saying, coming fight night. I believe it's in November, right? November. Comment and let me know who y'all think gonna win this fight. You know what I'm saying? Comment at the bottom, man. Talk your shit and make sure you let me know who you going for. And let me know, you know, how this fight is gonna be, you know, how y'all think it's gonna end in a TKO for Canelo, a knockout for Canelo, a unanimous decision for Bud, a KO for Bud. How y'all think this fight gonna actually happen, man? How do y'all seeing this shit playing out? You know what I'm saying? Because this fight is kind of driving me crazy, man. I ain't gonna even lie to you. It's the style matchup is phenomenal, and if I was to sit here and tell y'all a lie, man, I couldn't, man. You know what I'm saying? I got to be able to keep it real, man. I can't wait to see this fight, man. I could just break it down the best, you know what I'm saying? I could just try to tell y'all, you know, how the fighters need to come out and being able to be alert of the opponent, you know what I'm saying? Being able to, you know, they got, both opponents got so much training, you know, leading up to this fight. You know, it's going to come down to, you know, who's more disciplined and, you know, making sure, you know, when it's time for the weigh-in, so, you know, who come in, you know, ready. I'm pretty sure they both going to come in ready, you know, for the weigh-ins. And Bud is disciplined. He never went overweight. And with Canelo, the same. He's so disciplined, you know, they're both going to come in at, you know, the actual weight of, you know, of the fight. And so we definitely going to have a fight, you know what I'm saying? Two of the best fighters in the world got to be able to showcase their skills in front of hundreds and thousands of fans that appreciate the sport of boxing. You know, we appreciate this motherfucking fight, you know what I'm saying? When it comes down to it, boxing Talk 100, Boxing Association, and people that put this fight together, we thank you for putting on this matchup, you know. But coming at the bottom, and like I said, you know, let me know who y'all think gonna win this fight. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be one for all the ages, you know what I'm saying, for everybody to be able to tune in. We have to be able to thank Turkey, Ishalai, and everybody that plans to fight for Netflix, making this fight free, making this fight available on fight night. So make sure y'all tune in, man. Hey, may the best man win, man. May the motherfucking best man win. Now let's move on, man. Keith One-Time Thurman versus Fundora. Oh my God. I didn't like I said, man, I didn't see it coming. I mean, we got Fundora as a great champion right now. I believe he's the WBC champion at 154. Which to me should have been Jermell Charlo, you know what I'm saying? But somehow he had got his belt vacated. I don't know what's going on with Jermell Charlo, but don't sleep on Jermell Charlo at 154. 154, we got Fundora. We got Keith Thurman, you know what I'm saying? That fight is agreed upon, you know what I'm saying? We got Virgil and we got Erickson Lubin. I believe that fight is going to be agreed upon, you know what I'm saying, at 154. We got Martitelia, I think that's his name. We got some more other fighters. Errol Spence, you know what I'm saying? We still got Tim Tszyu at 154. I mean, it's stacked at 154. There's still unfinished business at 154 to be able to see who's going to run that division. And we got some good fights in the play, you know what I'm saying? Keith One-Time Thurman versus Fundora. That's going to be a tough one, you know. We've seen Fundora beat Tim Tszyu twice. You know what I'm saying? And he's a great champion, you know what I'm saying? Keith Thurman, you know, you given a chance, a title defense matchup, you know what I'm saying, to be able to fight Fundora. You wanted somebody to be able to fight. You felt like nobody could be able to be on your level in boxing skills of what you bring to the table, Keith Thurman. This is a great fight for a boxing association to be able to put together. We appreciate y'all. We thank y'all for putting on this 154 bout with Fundora versus Keith Thurman. Now let's break it down. We know when it comes to Fundora, you know, the skinny giant, he ain't nothing to play around with. He's going to make a fight, interesting with a Keith One-Time Thurman, who's been a unified, undisputed champion at 47 once upon a time. And then, with the shoulder surgery and then, some shit that kind of, made him, kind of backtracked a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And then Keith One-Time Thurman with the shoulder surgery, and then it finally gets healed. And then you was going to make a fight with Tim Tszyu. Then that fight got canceled. And then we seen Keith Thurman kind of, fight the Mario Barrios. And then, some other, fighters that didn't really have no names to be able to get to the position that he's at now at 154. You were supposed to have been on Fault Boots, which that fight could have been made, but, negotiations or whatever fell, didn't go through with that fight. Keith Thurman and Boots. We were supposed to have been seeing, Keith Thurman possible Virgil. We didn't see that fight. It could have been Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence. That fight could have been made at, 154. We could have seen Keith Thurman versus Jermell Charlo, at 154. Now, with Keith Thurman and Fundora, that's still, unfinished business. We got to be able to see who wins that fight. You know what I'm saying? Boxing fans coming at the bottom once again. Let me know who y'all think gonna win that fight. For me, I'm going with in the new Keith One-Time Thurman. I think with his boxing skills, he's just not a regular boxer. And when you talk about left and right and throwing the motherfuckers up there, Keith One-Time Thurman, he's able to bring that shit to the table. Great champions. We see, 140, 7-pound champion with Mario Barrios. We can go back when Keith Thurman was at 147, and beat Mario Barrios, made it look easy. Now, I felt like if it would have been like 2 or 3 more rounds, then Mario Barrios would have had a good chance at beating Keith Thurman, but you came up short, Mario Barrios, and you allowed Keith Thurman to beat you. You know what I'm saying? That was a great matchup, and a great win for Keith One-Time Thurman to be able to put such as a name as Mario Barrios on his record. Now, the only loss that Keith Thurman has, and it's not of a big deal, you know what I'm saying, because of so many years that passed and, Keith Thurman, where he's at right now, that's what makes sense. His only loss was against Manny Pacquiao, but it was a close fight. If y'all go back and see that fight, it was only the knockdown that would gave Keith Thurman that loss. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not just going to put Keith Thurman down like that. He's a great champion. You know what I'm saying? And if Keith, the only problem that what I have with Keith Thurman is that goddamn shoulder. If he never would have had that motherfucking shoulder injury and going into surgery, trying to heal from that surgery, Keith would have been a whole different type of champion right now. A whole different type of champion. And would probably have a belt at, 154. He would have been already in a position to, at 154, if he would have been already had one of the belts. I'd say that about Keith Thurman. But time is now. And what makes sense is trying to capture, Fundora's, WBC title belt. And there, there's a lot of more belts, at 154, that's going to be, up for grabs, heading to, undisputed unification, title matches. 154 stack, man. You got Murder, the dude that beat Tim Tszyu, Murder Telia or whoever he is. He like a motherfucker Russian or Iranian or whoever he is. He's a great champion. You got Tim Tszyu. Even though he lost against Fundora, he's still gonna be in there. There's a chance that he may fight like a Errol Spence, or he can wait until these losers and being able to fight. These losers still gonna have a chance to be able to fight for a bag no matter what. But it's gonna be different when you winning and trying to compete for world titles and being the champion and trying to be unified champion at 154. That's what it's gonna come down to. Only one. But like I said, 154 is stacked right now, man. You can be able to choose and pick anybody at 154, but who has the great advantage that I must say at 154 is Fundora, who's, being able to give Keith One-Time Thurman, a title defense shot Wish Keith Thurman got a chance to be able to take that belt off Fundora and become a new 154 title holder, competing for unification matchup to become undisputed. Keith one-time Thurman. So my edge is on Keith, man. I think he can go in there and shake up the giant, you know what I'm saying? And we've seen, Fundora hit the mat, so many times against Erickson Lubin. You know what I'm saying? We've seen him hit, Mendoza. When he fought Mendoza, I think Mendoza, that was Fundora's first loss. Brian Mendoza, I believe. I'm not too sure, you know what I'm saying? Y'all can come at the bottom and let me know, but that was Fundora's first ever loss that he, suffered getting knocked out. But, he came back, much stronger, went into the gym and perfected, coming back, you know what I'm saying, as being a great champion. Fundora. Now look where he's at, from 147 to 154, holding the title, being that man. So coming at the bottom and let me know who y'all think gonna win that fight, Fundora and Keith Thurman. Now, Fundora, he can use that jab, man. He definitely got great power behind the punch, and if he contains, Keith Thurman, that would be like the ultimate goal, using the jab, a power jab, and to be able to set up combinations. Keith one-time Thurman definitely going to have to use his skills to be able to get in the inside to be able to land on Fundora, who is tall. Watching film and, to be able to study Fundora ain't going to be no problem from, Keith one-time Thurman. Hell, all you got to do is watch the, Fundora versus Erickson Lubin fight. That's all Keith Thurman needs to be able to study off of Fundora to be able to see, what he could use going into the fight. But Fundora, he definitely has a glass chin. Let's not get it confused. He definitely has a glass chin, Fundora. But he knows how to bang, and being in those bang sessions, height, he definitely has the advantage when you talk about just a regular height at 154. Who's ever at 5'10" to 5'9", 5'10" to 6 foot. Fundora is like damn near like 6'5", 6'6" compared to a regular 154 fighter. That's 6 foot or 6'1". So I give the edge on Fundora on using the jab and making sure Keith don't come in. That's the only thing I give Fundora on. Power wise, Keith Thurman can match up with Fundora. If you now, I also give Fundora this too on the inside. If you're trying to go on there and fight Fundora on the inside, Keith, you're gonna get ate up. Because he gonna be too lanky. He just gonna be right there to be able to do uppercuts and being able to tear your ass up. It's a hurt sport. A bloody hurt sport. What I'm saying? A broken nose, being able to bruise up and go to the head. That's what Fundora is gonna be good at. When it comes to inside and Keith Thurman trying to stay on the outside. Keith Thurman, best advantage to be able to box on the outside, move jabs, set up your combinations to where you can set up for power, punches, and hopefully they land on Fundora. They got to be way up top, man. You can't throw nothing in the inside. I don't think that's going to affect Fundora too much. He's a great skilled champion that can go in there in bang sessions and come on out on top if it makes sense. Keith Thurman got to be careful. Don't go on there and try to change up, trade up with the John, because you're going to get caught, Keith Thurman. You got to be able to box the way how you box, and that's being a great professional boxer. I give that out of any name of, to be able to put alongside with Keith Thurman. There's not too many great boxers that can fight off their feet, use the jab, and use combinations, slow pace themselves, and just taking their time. Keith one-time Thurman, I give you that advantage over Fundora. May the best man win, man. But like I said, I gotta pick one. I'm going with Keith one-time Thurman in this one to beat Fundora. If you can't beat Fundora, it's gonna be a devastating knockout, and Keith one-time Thurman gonna suffer his second loss. I'm talking about a devastating knockout on Keith one-time Thurman. It could be a TKO stoppage if Keith. I give Keith one-time Thurman that at least. You know what I'm saying? if Fundora is able to stop you, it'll be TKO stoppage of the rest. I don't think Fundora to be able to put Keith One Time Thurman to sleep, because we never seen Keith One Time Thurman get put to sleep. We never really seen Keith One Time Thurman hit the mat. You know what I'm saying? We never really seen Keith One Time really, going to feet to where you really got to put hands on Keith One Time Thurman to punish him. We haven't seen that. Only one fight I can think about, and I think that was Herrera. You know what I'm saying? Keith One Time Thurman versus Herrera. And I still think they still gave that fight to Keith One Time Thurman. But that was a close fight for Keith One Time Thurman, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, may the best man win. Hopefully, boxing, man, it's here, man. We can go with quick, picks, you know what I'm saying? Gervonta Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. I got Tank. Crawford versus Canelo. I already told y'all that's like a 50-50, man. I say Canelo win, and then I say Bud to win. It's just, man, I just want to see that fight, man. I'm not going to be biased and be like, oh, it's going to be a tough fight, man. It's going to be a tough one. Yeah, man, many more fights to be able to come. We seen Dana White, he put out the, the fight, card for, Canelo versus, Bud. It's gonna be a great card, you know what I'm saying? I think you're gonna have 6 fights before you get to the main event, which is Canelo and Bud. So I'm excited about it, man. As a boxing fan, I'm really excited about it. Last but not least, man, Andre Ward, what you gonna do? I've said it, you know what I'm saying? If Andre Ward wants to be able to come back, come and fight Bavil or Kovalev. These will be the greatest fights, of your comeback, to be able to fight one of those fighters. Don't go after a heavyweight fighter, Anthony Joshua, right away, because you might get punished from the heavyweight Anthony Joshua. You know what I'm saying? Even though, Andre Ward, you are undefeated and retire and want to unretire, you're going to have to get in that gym and put on some muscle, and you got to be able to go on there grounded and disciplined, and to be able to do it all over again. You sure you want to be able to, you ready for the muscle aches and to get back in the gym to be able to perfect your craft, to be able to get on the same page as Anthony Joshua? Are you sure you're ready for that, Andre Ward? That's all I got to say about Andre Ward. Andre Ward is a great champion, has been undisputed. We don't see him in his great, boxing career, being in the tournaments, overcoming these tournaments, winning these tournaments, and, being undefeated, coming out on top as, a professional boxer, and getting to the Hall of Fame, Andre Ward. But you sure you want to be able to come out of retirement and be able to fight some of these fighters? Hell, go fight. If you want to fight, Anthony Joshua, hell, go fight Andy Ruiz. I'd love to see, a comeback fight with Andre Ward versus Andy Ruiz. Could y'all imagine that? Just putting out a name out there. Andre Ward versus Bivol. Andre Ward versus, Bitter Beef. You know what I'm saying? These are the fights I want to be able to see Andre Ward be able to fight. If not, you need to be able to get back, not just picking and choosing a fighter who you want to be able to fight within Anthony Joshua. But if you want to be able to get your ass back into championship mode, Andre Ward, then do so. Don't just talk about who you going to get in there and be able to fight on your comeback fights. Yeah, it could work that way for you because you are of, how would you say, heavy favor, in the boxing world. You don't did all what you have to do, Andre Ward, and became, a Hall of Famer. But are you sure you want to be able to jeopardize being able to come back out? Not just get into exhibition fights, you know what I'm saying? Get into some exhibition fights, That's what I want to be able to see Andre Ward be able to do instead of calling out Anthony Joshua. And that's risky, you know what I'm saying? Anthony Joshua, don't just think that you can sleep on Anthony Joshua because he don't suffer, some losses in his career. But some of those losses that he got back, whether it was from a rematch or, just making his way up, finding a way how to win and getting back on, on track, and getting opportunities, Anthony Joshua. But Andre Ward, I love Andre Ward. Oakland's finest, you know what I'm saying, California. If you decide to come back, come on back. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to see, you know, get in there with some fighters. Whether it's at, you know, 160 to 154 to 160. What would be Andre Ward's actual, you know, weight class? It'd definitely be 160. You know what I'm saying? Can you come back and try to run that division, Andre Ward? You know what I'm saying? Being number one to be able to control, you know, boxing. Being able to compete for world titles. You want another world title, Andre Ward? What do you want to do? You just want, are you thinking you just can just pick out a fighter like Anthony Joshua, knowing, okay, I can beat this fighter. Let me come back out of retirement because I know I can beat this fighter. And that's the way you thinking, Andre Ward? But yeah, man, comment at the bottom. Let me know if that fight would interest y'all, Andre Ward versus Anthony Joshua. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, where would it take place and how could y'all see that fight, you know, happening? You know, same as, you know, with, you know, Roy Jones versus Floyd Mayweather. You know, how could y'all see that fight happening if it was to fight? If they would surprisingly agreed upon the fight, Mayweather versus Roy Jones Jr., who y'all think gonna win that fight? Me personally, I'm picking Floyd. I think he gonna beat the shit out of Roy Jones. You know what I'm saying? Tiff attack, landing to be able to have to be able to see who has the best accuracy. It ain't gonna be no difference than me watching Floyd and his past career on everybody he don't beat. It ain't gonna be no difference than whether he goes to China or Japan or stand his ass in America, being able to see who he fights and beat. It ain't gonna be no difference, especially if he fight, you know, Roy. I'm sorry, Roy, but I don't see. I seen, man, you don't got your ass beat from Antonio Tarver, Glenn Johnson with a glass chin, and you don't suffered a lot of L's. You know what I'm saying? You know, Roy Jones. You know, truthfully, you know what I'm saying? In the sport of boxing, you know, we got to be able to be truthful about it. Yes, Floyd might have, you know, embarrassed you. You know what I'm saying? Showing you how you got knocked out to be able to itch you for, you know, for whatever, how y'all, you know, whatever happened. You know what I'm saying? Y'all used to be friends, and then if jealousy came in or whatever happened, man, you know, whatever happened. But if the fight is to be made, and as a boxing fan, I definitely watched that girl's exhibition match, Boxing Talk 100, and my money is on Floyd. I think if Roy Jones Jr. really wanted to make it a real fight, like how he's telling, you know, Floyd, then I think Floyd, if it was definitely a real match, Floyd going to outbox him, he's going to land him, bruise, you know, Roy Jones Jr. up, and that'll be it. Now, if it's like an exhibition fight to where they fight and get paid, they both get paid for the bag, and it becomes like a draw, then they got to make up as being friends. That's what I see with Floyd and, you know, Roy, you know, because they don't have, you know, they got a miscommunication, you know, as being the best two boxers in the sport. You know, they hate each other, you know. So if it makes sense for them to be able to fight and put their pride to the side and being able to fight, to be able to, you know, become and make the friendship real other than being fake, then that's what needs to happen. They need to go ahead and put them gloves on and make this fight happen. You know what I'm saying? May the best man win. And if Roy, you get your ass whooped, then you can no longer talk about, you know, Floyd not being one of the greatest. If Floyd is able to show you, you know, and make this fight, surprisingly, Mayweather versus motherfucking Roy Jones Jr. If this fight is to be made, comment at the bottom, you know what I'm saying, Boxing Talk 100 fans, and let me know who y'all picking. You know what I'm saying? It'd be interesting, especially for boxing, and especially for a boxing association. It wouldn't be no difference than George Foreman being able to fight these young guys, or Bernard Hopkins being able to step in there and fighting these young guys. It wouldn't be no different. So why can't these fighters get in there as men? You know what I'm saying? If you got a dispute, or you know, if y'all got, you know, different type of, you know, opinions to be able to settle to where y'all don't agree upon, then y'all need to get your ass in there and fight. Roy Jones Jr. versus Floyd Money Mayweather, man. But yeah, man, thanks for watching this video, man. That's all I got for y'all for right now, man. Like I said, man, tune in for these upcoming fights, man. And make sure, you know what I'm saying, y'all enjoy yourselves, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, like I said, you know, you can come in at the bottom and make sure, you know, share this video. And make sure, you know what I'm saying, you hit that like button, you know what I'm saying? And I just appreciate it for, you know, if you leave a comment, you know, talking about this fight, you know, these fights coming up. You know, we got Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. Hey, man, don't sleep on Haney, but don't play with Brian Norman Jr. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Don't sleep on Haney, but don't play with Brian Norman Jr. That's going to be a good fight, you know what I'm saying? May the best man win. Brian Norman is putting up that, you know, belt. So Haney either going to take Brian's belt or Brian going to either lose and go back to the drawing board. We just seen, you know, Ring Magazine, you know, Brian Norman just signed a deal, you know what I'm saying? So he'll definitely be having a lot of fights, you know what I'm saying, at 147. And he's one of the belt holders at 147, you know what I'm saying? So at 147, there's a lot of opportunities and, you know, still to become, you know, unified, you know, world champion, undisputed champion. He has one of the belts, so he could unify against other belt holders at 147. Same as Haney, man. It's a give or take. It's an opportunity. So may the best man win. It's going to be a dangerous fight for both fighters, you know what I'm saying? Or it could be an easy night for a fighter. But stay tuned in, man. We're going to get a lot of work and, you know, a lot of this boxing coming up, man. I will have more videos for y'all, you know, breaking news or, you know, it's always going to be something to come up, you know, with breaking news, you know, of a fight being agreed upon. Just stay tuned for the names, you know what I'm saying? We got a lot of names. We still got a lot of names, man, that's going to be coming up. And it's going to be shocking to boxing fans when these fights are, you know, to be made, you know what I'm saying? With Teofimo, you know, I don't know what he going to do, but you got to fight to come up here soon. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I just want to be able to see all these fighters fight, man. That's what it's all about, man. You know, world champions and upsets and all this shit when it comes down to it, man. Boxing Talk 100. Yeah, man, it's a good day today. Today is, you know, Wednesday. I just wanted to get on here and make a video, man. We 52 minutes in, man. But like I said, man, thanks for watching this video. And make sure you subscribe to your boy, man. It'll really be kind, you know what I'm saying? You know, if you add your boy and I can get some more videos out there, you know. You know, to each his own. We all got opinions on our, you know, the best fighters in the world, you know, and this is what it's about, you know, being able to put, you know, the fights, you know, to be able to put these, you know, the best fights on, you know what I'm saying? You know, the best fights in the world to be able to put on, that's what it's all about. So, once again, man, I appreciate y'all, you know, and thanks for listening to me, and I hope y'all having a good day, and till next time, man, you know, Boxing Talk 100, this is your boy K Smooth, man. Thanks for watching this video, and like I said, you know, hey, man, it's here, man, and I'm excited about boxing, baby. Boxing Talk 100. All right, peace, man, and I'm gone.